Welcome to First Glance with Jody Vance. Glad to have you along for a very important catch-up session with Chris Parry, the publisher and president of EQUITY.GURU. Chris, lots of fun things, new things happening in and around EQUITY.GURU. First and foremost, though, how you doing? You've been busy.
Doing okay. I don't have COVID. I'm not dead. Got my jabs. All
That's
good.
At some point, I need you to show us the sticker wall inside your office because the inspo wall is really important. You've needed a lot of inspiration for what new has been happening at the Guru, at EQUITY.GURU, but you've also hired someone new who is quite a swizzle stick, if you will. Tell us about Rob Simpson.
So Rob is an old hockey broadcaster from way back. He's been on TV on the East Coast, on the West Coast, in the mids. He's a guy who, will work for a hockey team's TV side and will go out into the street and generate, 5 minutes of good video out of nothing. He's a guy who understands how to make the trains show up on time. And I think, as we at EQUITY.GURU we've rolled through COVID, we've managed to keep growing in a time when a lot of our competitors are not. The markets have been reasonably slow. So we kind of figured this is a good time to rejig and figure out, are we doing what we set out to do in the best way possible? Has the landscape changed a bit? Would we be better served doing things differently? Are there more platforms for us to take advantage of? And while we were having that conversation, we realized we needed somebody who could just create that content quickly every day, stick handle it, for want of a better, less punny term. And, here's Rob coming straight out of the recommendations of one Jody Vance. And he's been with us now for a month or so, and I think we got the right guy.
Great. I think so too. He has been in my contacts in my phone for 20 years. He was one of those people I met while doing sports as my full-time job, my national sports job. And he was one of those guys who identified that perhaps I was swimming with sharks, and he made sure that I was well protected, if you will. He's like 6'5" or 6. So it's very funny. He's like a foot taller than me. And he's just like this.
He's a million feet tall.
He's a million feet tall, and he has equal number of inches high as his heart is huge. But he's also one of those people who is like only happy. He's kind of like Rob Fay. He's only happy when he's doing 50 things at once. And he's like, because he's written books, he's covered events worldwide. He is so much more than just like that hockey guy. He loves hockey, though. He does a real good hockey blog. He's some great content. But so speaking of the content, we'll get to, I call him Simmer. So if it gets confusing, that's why. Rob Simpson. We'll have him on in a future edition of First Glance with Jody Vance when we need to talk about the content on here and when you're too busy for me, because that's going to happen too. But let's get into some of the things, because obviously the website has been rejigged first and foremost. That's no small task.
Yeah, a couple of times actually. We got a big shiny agency to do it, and they completely screwed it up. So then we got one of the guys in our room to do it off the side of his desk, and he did a much better job. Look, the old way was to try and get people to your website to consume the content that you've written about the public companies. And we're realizing that really that's not the way to do it. That's like trying to have a kitchen party and have everybody show up when there's 10 other kitchen parties in the street. You really want to go out to each other party and be a part of that, right? So for us, the important thing is to actually see the content, whether it's on EQUITY.GURU, whether it's on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever it is. So our early plan at the beginning of the year was, let's go out and find some excellent broadcasters that, for whatever reason, the legacy media chains are ditching in favor of really substandard content. And let's let them tell their stories in a professional way. A lot of people in our business will go and find let's call a spade, the titsy blonde that will go out on TikTok and bounce around while talking about a ticker symbol for 20 seconds. That ain't it. I'd rather go the other way. I'd rather go get, the established.
Thank you for going the other way. Thank you for going the other way.
We'll talk about our TikTok strategy in a second there, Jody, but just get your bikini ready.
Oh, Jesus. I would like to hand in my resignation.
I guess I'm taking the bikini job now.
You are.
But we got when sports radio station collapsed here, or one of them,
Yeah.
We went out and found what we thought was the best broadcaster they had to do a sports-based podcast in Rob Fay, which touches on daily fantasy sports, esports, sports betting, regular sports, even music. Because we figured there's a lot of companies in those areas that are now public and, it's relevant. But also, it's got a big audience. And if that big audience can be kept and served what they're looking for, and, in the background start thinking about, hey, I do have some money to invest. Maybe, there's some crossover here. Wow, perfect. So Rob's gone ahead and started this daily sports talk podcast that is currently number 4 on iTunes. Meanwhile, all the guys at the other sports radio station that didn't get its throat cut, today got its throat cut. So, I think what we're really finding is that you don't have to be part of a big media company to be a journalist.
Correct.
Or a columnist or an opinionator, or you just need to go out there and have the hustle. And we got the guys that have the hustle. Simmer has the hustle. You've got the hustle. Faye's got Faye started a daily sports podcast with 1 hour of talk a day. Now, you can go out and just talk live for 3 hours. That's no problem because you've got producers and such. But to do a pre-recorded, polished, cut together 1 hour every day, that's work, man. That's like 6 hours of work straight there.
Totally.
Plus, it started a wrestling company in the middle of it all.
Yeah.
It has nailed that. So, we just figure that there's a lot of people out there that have the drive, have the skill, have the personality, and there's no reason why they can't work with us instead of banging their head against the corporate media brick wall.
Equity Guru is the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. We are building, and it is super cool to be a part of it from the very beginning, Chris. Tell me about your daily ideas.
So the old times, equity news, and the problem with that is, one, we're on the West Coast, so the news is dropping at 6 a.m. 2, by the time you've written about the news, it's not 6 a.m. anymore. It's 9 a.m. or noon, or even at the end of the trading day. So if you're constantly chasing like that, while social media already has the news in front of it, you're not adding as much value as you could be. So we still want to do investigative stuff, but not necessarily breaking news based. What we're moving towards now is instead a daily idea, one company that we cover from 5 or 6 different angles that the website is all about on that given day. We'll still have the news pieces, we'll still have breaking news stuff, but the focus is more, hey, today we're looking at this company. You're going to get me talking about it. You're going to get the interview the CEO did with you. We're going to get a chart analyst to look at the charts. We're going to get an investor roundtable to talk about the ins and outs of it. We'll get an analyst to break down what they think. We'll do some flashbacks to previous news for the company. Package all that together in one thing, where we're going out to YouTube, we're going out to Facebook, we're going out to LinkedIn, the whole thing. Now, if that company then has a big breaking news story in 2 weeks, we can bring that whole package back up along with the news to have much more impact. So that when the company's paying for this coverage, it's not like up on a Tuesday and dead by a Wednesday.
Right.
It's instead
You're Legoing. You're Legoing it, making it a beast, making it grow. And an inch wide and a mile. I like an inch wide and a mile deep, because that's not just about the headline. That's not the stone skipping across the surface. That's actually, and here's all of the backstory. That's brilliant.
Yeah, we want to get to a point where, if you're interested in that company, you've got enough information to go through that is unbiased, right? Yeah. Pros and cons, as we always do.
Yeah.
And if there is stuff that we don't like, we'll talk about it.
Totally.
But for that company on that day, they're not, getting a news piece that's then quickly drowned out by the next news piece, which is drowned out by the next news piece, and suddenly they're like, where did my story go?
Yeah.
So, that's where we're at. Now, a lot of our competitors cost a lot more money because they buy massive amounts of Google ads to try and drive people on the day to that story.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's value in that, because what you get from that is the 30% price jump. And then the next day, everyone takes their profits because they're not really invested in the company. They're invested in the promo. Right. Gotcha. So now you have a heart attack monitor as a share chart that you have to explain to people for the next year. Hey, why did it jump to 30 cents and why is it at 15 now? Hey, well, we spent $1 million on promo for a day, and a bunch of
it worked for one day, and then we were, So that's Monday to Thursday?
Monday to Thursday. On the
Got it.
Friday,
Yeah.
we're moving to, because Friday's a very different day. A lot of guys in the markets don't actually turn up to work on Fridays. Or if they do, they're at the pack room at 1 p.m. Starting in on the shandies. So what we figure is on Fridays, we'll do sector recaps. So back in the old days at Stockhouse, I made a name for myself doing a marijuana industry update every day.
Yeah.
Where every piece of news that came out, I summarized it into one index. There's value in that, right? If you're interested in XYZ company that's in the lithium space, there might be 3 other companies in the lithium space also that you're not necessarily exposed to. So we like to gather all up into one place and say, here is this sector, here's what everyone's doing, right or wrong, good or bad. And if this is a space that you really like, come back every Friday because there'll be more for you.
Fascinating. I love that idea.
Agriculture, it could be EVs, it could be, anything.
But are you serving shandies though? Are you going to have a little of the Equity Guru special selection of scotch on a Friday? Is that going to be there?
You've been to the bar in our lobby, have you not?
I have.
It's
That's my reason for bringing it up.
The secret scotch cabinet is alive and well.
You just push on that thing and then it spins around. Anyways, I digress. Okay, so I love that. Sector Fridays. So that's a expert writer handling a weekly recap of various sectors each and every Friday, breaking down the news, updates, mostly small cap investments, mining, cannabis, crypto, biotech, psychedelics are just a few examples of those, right?
Yep.
Okay, roger that. Okay, content brands. We got a couple of examples of some of the content that you can find by swimming around at equity.guru. 5 easy questions with Maddie.
Yeah, so Maddie's interesting, right? Because we're looking for to connect with the young crowd.
Yeah.
We're looking to connect with the female crowd. And along comes Maddie, who nails it on both sides. She's been doing a lot of content for us on investor education, right? Everything from what is a warrant to what is an NFT to why does my head hurt, thinking about all these things.
Yeah.
And in her effort to find things to write about and explore that with experts, she puts things in a way that is not only very easy to understand, but also quite hilarious. And whenever she posts anything to the website, I'm not ashamed to say it destroys my content in terms of number of people who connect to it. So she's got a video series, 5 Easy Questions, where she just pokes some very simple questions at the CEOs, stuff that should be easy for them to explain, stuff that should be easy for them to go deeper into. I will say it's light, but it's light by design. The intention isn't to get in the weeds and go through, macroeconomic concepts so much as, listen, here's what I am interested in about your company. Here's a question that I don't understand from a, investor 101 perspective.
Yeah. And,
she's, I'll say it, she's great at what she does.
You know what? I like that a lot. And I'll use my sports analogy for my dad. My dad was a PE teacher. So I was coach's daughter growing up. And then when I got into sports broadcast, I was very connected to Sports 101, those easy, like when you say it's lighter, that draws me in. Because when I'm watching sports today, I'm like, are you all talking to one another? Or are you going to talk to your audience and maybe grow some people who need to understand what's actually going on when you're referencing everybody by their nickname or their initials, and then you're talking about what they're doing using acronyms that nobody understands, and then the summary of the game is, oh, well, they just got more runs than the other one. It's like, well, okay, thanks.
Baseball's the worst for that. Like, I love the deep baseball stats, but holy crap, if you're going to tell people what someone's WAR is, or the value over replacement player, like
the whip. How about the whip?
The whip.
The whip. What's a whip?
Like, how many people just casually watching baseball, when they see the ERA, are just like, I don't really understand.
I don't know what that is, and they don't want to ask. That's the point that I was going to make there, Chris. Is thank you for bringing me around. But those questions, like people are like, when you're talking investment, and they don't really know what you're talking about. But if you give them, 5 easy questions with Maddie, they're like, oh, got that. That's going to help me.
Most people there's a lot of things to Google every day, just in general life, right? The things you see on social media, things you hear.
Yeah. Like, what is that?
Yeah, my Google search history would be pretty embarrassing on that front, I would say. And so,
Send me the screen cap of that next. I want that.
Crap, I'm going to do some cleanup. Honey, stop clicking on the goat porn.
Stop it. Stop the goats. Okay, investor roundtable. I want to know about that one too. Jeez. So
the investor roundtable is where I get to be angry old man a little bit. So generally speaking, it's me, Simmer, Vishal, the chart guy, TK, the analyst guy, and we just all basically get on a Zoom call and start exploring companies. Sometimes clients, sometimes not, sometimes just something that's interesting out there, sometimes something that we think sucks. And so, I'll get in there and start throwing bombs, and the others might sort of look at themselves like a little bit like, oh, I actually really like that company. The boss is crapping all over. Yeah. So they can be fun. They generally end with Simmer saying, okay, if I've got 5K that you're investing for me, like, what are you doing? And people seem to really resonate with that easy question, right? Yeah. You don't necessarily want to have the 3,000 words breaking down the internal financials of a company. You just want an opinion, like an honest opinion. I like it because this. I think they need to do more of that. I'm disappointed by the other. If I had $5,000 and I was pressed today, would I invest any of it? Maybe I'd chuck 1,000 at it and watch. Maybe not at all. Maybe I'd just throw the whole 5K in because this thing's a diamond. Like, bringing it back to brass tacks is the important thing. And I think it's what Equity Guru was built on back in the day. And, this has been a good opportunity for us to get back to that thinking.
I like that. And also the trust piece that comes into play with all of you, knowing that you've done your due diligence that led you to this table. The credibility of that is priceless, I think. The chart attack with Vishal Tura, what's that all about?
So people who know charts are different people. They're just built different from the rest of us. They'll talk about a head and shoulders, a teacup, an iron cross, a destroy the Christians and let the roads run red with the blood of the fallen. Like, there's all sorts of terminology.
I like the ambulances in the background as you're explaining this. There's something about that.
That's it. That's the beauty of living in Richmond. So basically there's a lot of terminology in the charts where there's different theories about where a stock chart is heading, the patterns that you can see, where things might reverse, where they might start to trend upwards, where there might be still some downwards to get. For a lot of people, that stuff is just pure alchemy, right? Like, you hear the terminology and you just go, yeah, next tweet. So what Vishal is trying to do is to explain the terminology in a way that's easy to understand, so that when you're looking at a stock chart, you don't just see, where it's been the last week. You see trends in the movements up and down that, aren't going to necessarily definitely predict the future, but may give you an extra 10 points out of 100 of likelihood that you're going to pick it in the right direction. And I will say Vishal has a pretty good track record of seeing trends before they happen. To the point where it makes me think, okay, there's something to this. Yeah. People can always use charts as well to obfuscate and to try and predict good things where good things do not yet exist. So understanding it and being able to figure it out yourself is a pretty important thing.
Last but certainly not least, Chris's daily rant. Where do I sign up? Can I have it direct to my inbox, please?
You will not have to look very far for these ones. I'm sort of gearing up to a place where every day I'm going to look around out there and see what's trending, what people are buying, what they're selling, what's self-destructing, and just flip on the camera and spend 5 minutes blistering in. My happiest time career-wise was back when I could just lay the fire out at terrible cannabis companies that were seemingly worth $1 billion in market cap but couldn't find their asshole from their elbow. So I want to get back to that. Doesn't necessarily mean that every day has to be fire and brimstone, but we just saw like Aurora Cannabis put out their financials, and they're selling less cannabis, they're keeping less profit, and yet the company is still worth like an insane amount of money because people are just so desperately clinging on to the hope that cannabis will one day be $1 billion per company enterprise. And I could sit for 20 minutes and just breathe fire about how stupid that is and how stupid it's been for the last 4 years, and that half the cannabis market out there is like insanely overpriced because all these true believers that really like a smoke and really want cannabis to do well are leading with their chin and losing all their money so the guys that set up that industry can take all their money away from them. So just one example.
I love it. There's your first taste.
It's a target-rich environment, man.
I dig it. Chris's daily rants. They're going to happen, I'm assuming, Monday to Friday, or you're going to do them 7 days a week because you never know how to take a goddamn day off.
I might do 7 a day. It's a target-rich environment out there. There's a lot of things to talk about. So, now that we're at a place where the website has been changed and such commentary won't be as buried as it used to be, I think I'll be speaking far more than I should.
I love that about you. And I'll be right here every week talking to you too. So put me on your schedule. I'm going to make you talk all the time. Chris Parry, the publisher and president of EQUITY.GURU.
I want a Jody Vance rant.
I could probably do a Jody Vance rant. I'll have to come up with something. But I'm always here. On
First rants with Jody Vance.
That's what I'm saying.